This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
A Torah Anytime original series.
If you were to look at Jewish history with an honest perspective eye, you would start to notice patterns. And those patterns aren't coincidences, because in Jewish history, nothing is a coincidence. The patterns themselves become our greatest teachers. They often show us what Hashem is trying to tell us throughout the generations. One of those patterns that jumps out from the pages of Jewish history is the home our greatest leaders come from. If you were to look closely at the leaders of the Jewish people throughout the generations, you'll notice something pretty striking. Many of them grew up in homes that were far from perfect, homes that were chaotic and challenging, and nothing we would describe as ideal. And yet, out of those very homes came extraordinary greatness. For example, the Torah in Parshas Toldos stresses that Rivka came from a home of tricksters and thieves. Avram came from a home not just of idol worshippers, but of idol distributors. Yitzchak's brother was Yishmael, the eventual father of Islam. Yaakov's brother was the barbaric Esav. Rachel and Leah were children of the notorious con artist Lavan. Yosef married an Egyptian woman and spent most of his life alone in Egypt. Moshe grew up as an adopted son of Paro, the leader of the strongest and perhaps largest empire ever, and then ended up marrying the daughter of the Pope. Esther was an orphan growing up. Rebbe Akiva was raised completely unaffiliated and was illiterate. The list can go on. Why is this? Why did Hashem arrange it this way? Could Hashem made Avram's father a shoemaker? Hashem could have made Rivka's father a simple man who worked at the post office. Hashem could have arranged that the person who saved Moshe Rabbeinu from the Nile River, was some innocent seamstress who had a nice daughter for him to marry. And yet, Hashem didn't arrange it that way. Why? What's the message behind the pattern? Perhaps this pattern is here to teach us a powerful idea. That these people didn't become great despite their shaky and challenging upbringings. They became great because of it. The evil, the lies, the pain all around them lit a fire underneath them, burning in their souls, determining them to correct the wrongs that they were subjugated to for so long. They weren't crushed by their surroundings. They were empowered by their surroundings. They were inspired. They were determined. They were on fire. Who knows what our history would be if Rebbe Akiva had grown up in a normal home? Who knows what we would look like if Moshe Rabbeinu grew up in a regular family on a regular block in Flatbush? Now, in no way am I saying that greatness can't come from a normal home. Of course it can. No one is saying it can't. All I'm saying is that this pattern in our history, it does something. It whispers to every person who feels like greatness is for other families, for other types, for other kids. This pattern gives a lifeline to the ones who grew up thinking they were disqualified before they even started. Because here's the truth. There are people out there walking around convinced that their family just doesn't have the right social class, or the right name, or the right amount of money in the bank account that can breed greatness. They think their school wasn't prestigious enough, or their camp wasn't with it enough, or their background somehow wasn't polished enough. They think that what they're exposed to, what they were exposed to growing up, somehow made a cage around their potential, a spiritual straitjacket that squeezes them into a smaller version of what they could have been. But that entire mindset is a lie. It's a toxic, limiting lie. This pattern in our history screams a very different message. It tells you that maybe, just maybe, Hashem put you in that exact setting on purpose, not to hold you back, not to crush your chances, but to ignite something inside of you that could never have been sparked in a picture-perfect home. Maybe he placed you in that environment so you could grow up with a fire and not a flicker, with a hunger and not a habit, with a drive that comes from knowing the world isn't always smooth and that you're strong enough to rise anyway. Maybe Hashem wanted you to burst into life, not strolling casually, but exploding out of the gate, running and pushing and climbing and refusing to settle for mediocrity. Maybe your parents' divorce, or not getting into that school, or getting rejected by that camp, maybe having an at-risk sibling, or needing therapy, or feeling like your home was too small or too out of touch, or not cool enough, or not from enough, or not with it enough. Maybe all those things you labeled as disadvantages weren't disadvantages at all. Maybe they were fuel. Maybe those very cracks in your story weren't signs of damage. Maybe they were launch pads and pressure chambers designed to fire you upward and give you the kind of depth and empathy and grit and spiritual hunger you could never have developed in a smooth and polished, picture-perfect life. Maybe your struggles weren't there to break you. Maybe they were there to build you and to power your ride to greatness. If Jewish history teaches us anything, it's this. Greatness is not born in calm waters. It's forged in storms, the storms that no one asked for and the storms that no one understood at the time. Our greatest leaders stepped out of complicated homes and broken narratives and messy origins, and they didn't just survive, they ignited. They walked into the world on fire, ready to become who they were meant to be, and you carry that same potential. It's the same idea found in the Gemara in Saita, Daf Beis Mad Beis, which says, "Lama nismecha parshas Nazir leparshas Saita, lelamdecha kol areya Saita b'kukulo yazer atzma min hayayin." The Gemara says, you want to know why Masechtas Nazir comes right after Masechtas Saita? It's to teach us that anyone who happens to witness a Saita explode in the Beis HaMikdash should accept upon himself Nazirus in order to cultivate a deeper sensitivity to behaviors that can lead a person astray. And there's an obvious question. Shouldn't a person who just witnessed the Saita explode in front of him be the last person who needs to become a Nazir? Don't we assume that after seeing such a shocking graphic scene, that man would be so scared straight? Just like a smoker can literally quit cold turkey after watching a lung surgery, wouldn't this man run home trembling, ready to live a life of precious and self-control? He should be the last person to need to become a Nazir, and yet the Torah says specifically he must become one. Why is that? So the Baal Shem Tov gives an amazing answer, and in doing so reveals a very powerful truth about life. It wasn't random that this man happened to walk into the Beis HaMikdash that day. It wasn't random that he happened to pass by at that exact moment the Saita collapsed. Hashem orchestrated all of it because he needed that jolt, because he needed that wake-up call. He needed that push to rise higher. Hashem arranged that specifically that man would walk by that Saita on that day because he needed that in his life, and that is why specifically he becomes a Nazir. And that, says the Baal Shem Tov, is a lesson in life in general, that there is no such thing as coincidences. No moment, no encounter, no person who crosses your path is random. Hashem engineers the storyline of every life with perfect precision, placing people and places and experiences exactly where they need to be for you, to shape you, to guide you, to wake you up. Every neighbor, every classmate, every coworker, from the teller at the bank, to the Mesholoch knocking on your door, to the teacher you loved, to the teacher you didn't love, from the roommate who inspired you to the roommate who drove you nuts. Every single one of them was hand-delivered to your life by Hashem because each one plays a role in lighting a fire underneath your feet to serve Hashem with passion and with clarity and with joy. This is an amazing perspective to have in your life. Every person we meet, every place we've been, every camp, every school, every counselor, every challenge, every environment, all were carefully placed into our lives, not to block your path to greatness, but to build it. We're not meant to become great people despite them. We're meant to become great because of them. I once heard a great story from Rabbi Ephraim Shapiro when he was speaking in Columbus, Ohio. The story goes like this. In August of 2012, a group of tourists were on a guided tour through Iceland. They were on one of those week-long tours where they were going to check out the country. So on the very first day, the morning itinerary was a museum, and the plan for the afternoon was a hike through some breathtaking cliffs. Among the group was a middle-aged Asian woman, and for the museum, she wore a nice, elegant black dress paired with this decorative large hat, very much what you would wear to a museum. But before the group headed out for the hike, she quickly changed into some neon yellow hiking gear, bright and bold. And 20 minutes later, when they stopped for lunch on some busy street, the tour guide suddenly realized he hadn't seen the Asian woman in the black dress since the museum. So he started looking for that woman in the black dress, but he couldn't find her. And he asked the group if anyone has seen that woman with the black dress, but no one has. And all of a sudden, panic set in, and a search party began, and they retraced their steps, and people fanned out all throughout the city, and they combed every inch of the museum, and they were desperately trying to find that Asian woman in the black dress. Now here's the wildest part. The woman they were looking for, the Asian woman in the black dress, who was now wearing a yellow outfit, was also looking for the woman in the black dress. The very same woman, now wearing neon yellow, spent 4 hours helping the group search for herself. And it wasn't until someone read the official description out loud, middle-aged Asian female, about 5 feet tall, black museum dress, decorative hat, that it finally hit her. She was the missing woman. She had been searching for herself. She walked back over to the guide, embarrassed and exhausted, and she said the words no one expected, "I think I am the one you're looking for." And the tour just looked at her and burst into laughter. Sometimes in life, we do the same exact thing. Hashem calls us a mamlechas koyanim v'goy kadosh. He calls us great and holy and spiritual. But we look around and we assume the message is directed at someone else. We tell ourselves that Hashem couldn't possibly be talking about me. He was probably talking about, I don't know, someone from a better family, someone with a stronger background, someone more polished or more confident or more put together. We search everywhere for the great person we think the Torah is talking about. We look around for the real tzaddik, the real holy Jew, the real great person that the Torah must be referring to. And all along, it was talking about us. The same way that woman spent hours searching the streets of Iceland for the person she had already become, we spend years searching for the greatness already planted inside of us, because the truth is simple. You're not missing. You're just not recognizing yourself yet. Stop looking for the great person Hashem wants and start realizing that that person is you.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.